All right, good. Folks, let's go ahead and get started. We probably will still have a few more people that will jump in. As you can see, the title on this, you noticed that you probably have already figured out. I'm not Cindy Bishop. But let me go ahead and quickly do a simple introduction. A lot of you have probably heard from Kelly in the past. Kelly Katalinas is a manager at the Fairfax office for Fairway Independent Mortgage, and we are really excited to have her with us today, especially with this particular topic. It's about the secrets of emotional influence. And it really does have a lot to do with leadership. So one of the things that I would really appreciate you guys doing, just so we have a record of your visit, this first of all, and also so that we know that you understand where the chat box is, if you could, in the chat box, if you could quickly identify who you are, because one of the things that we found is that on these, the way that this meeting maker shows you up on the screen is sometimes it doesn't give us enough information to know who's actually here. I know that people have signed in to be here and have registered ahead of time, but we just want to have a record of your visit. So if you wouldn't mind, just real quickly in the chat box, I'm going to go ahead and do it, and that way we've got it. Good. Thank you for doing that, everybody. Bruce, Nancy, thank you. Appreciate it. Peter, good. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you doing that. So that helps us a lot. And by the way, please utilize the chat box as we're going through this. If you have a question as we go through, a comment, there's something that, thank you, Lauren, thank you, Lisa. But if you guys have a comment or a question, if you could just, and Simbo, thank you very much. If you could just go ahead and weigh in, you know what I mean? And with this particular topic, there may not be as many questions as there may be comments, or maybe things that you've done or ways that you approach this that have been helpful, that would be helpful to all of us. So anyway, with that, you didn't come here to listen to me, but I did want to mention to you at the end of this, before we jump off, there's a couple of announcements that I wanted to make about some upcoming events that I think you guys may have an interest in. So thank you, Nadine. I appreciate that. Good. All right. So Kelly, with no further ado, let me turn this over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I coming through loud and clear there? Dave, you can hear me okay?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, good.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you for using the chat box.
I appreciate everybody coming together today and attending this. This is a really interesting topic, I think. Secrets of emotional influence, because as mortgage professionals and real estate professionals, 90% of the decisions made by your customer and clients might be emotional. And when we're introduced to them to assist them with either a home sale or a home purchase or a mortgage, we have to understand the way to interact with them both emotionally as well as logically, right? What we perceive as logic, they might not, et cetera. So when we talk about emotional influence, it's about a lot of different factors that go into how we influence others and how others see us and how we interact with them. So I really find this topic very expansive, and I've tried to really, nail it down to some basic tips that everyone can look at in a webinar format. It certainly isn't all-inclusive, but I think we can hit on some things that might help us to grow and be better influencers in our day-to-day interactions with our clients and customers. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And as Dave said, there may not be a lot of questions here, but there may be comments, and I really invite that story, because I think we all will have certain stories to share as we go through this that might help the rest of the group. So I'm going to click over, and we're going to talk, first let's define what I mean by emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence refers to the ability to identify and manage one's own emotions as well as the emotions of others, sometimes at the same time, which that sounds a little scary when you first read it, right? Not only controlling your own emotions, but influencing perhaps the emotions of others. okay, at the same time. So a leader is going to try to master that influence in what they do and be skilled in leading people's thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So that's, what I want you to do here is think about a situation where you had to either lead a discussion or a topic or complete a group project, right? You were assigned and you had to work with others to get that project done. Well, as soon as that project was assigned to you, you had your own vision for it, right? You knew in your head how you wanted it to go, or you at least envisioned how you thought it should go. But you had these other members on your team that were assigned the same project at the same time who had their own vision of how that project should go. So how do you best communicate your version of that vision while incorporating their versions at the same time, right? So, you're trying to appeal to the thoughts and beliefs of the others in the group because, you're headstrong, right? You want your vision to be heard, but so do they. And that back and forth and that understanding of influence and what you can control and what you can't control and what you need to accommodate on and what they might need to accommodate on is what we mean by emotional intelligence and influence as we go through. It takes skill to influence someone's own visions and to get them to align with yours. And that's kind of what we want to talk about. We want you to think about this as it relates to you developing the right team in your transaction, the right team to work with in your office or in your daily life, etc. How do we determine the right team so that that influence and everybody shares that same vision to the best outcome? So leaders influence, right? A leader should be able to lead people's thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And again, just that sentence seems a little scary, right? It seems powerful, right? I can lead someone's thoughts, beliefs, and actions. But we don't want you to think that way to the negative, right? We don't want to lead them down the wrong path. There's a lot of different ways you can influence others, and there's a lot of different relationships that you come into contact with. Some of the leadership influences are employee, right? You're the boss, right? Are you the boss of the transaction? Are you the boss of your household? Are you're not the boss of me, right? Other people say that to you. But, what type of boss are you? Are you the person that just gives orders and mandates that things be done this way, your way? Or are you more collaborative in your approach with your employees or your team members or your support staff, at the companies that you work with? Is there respect there? Or is it more autocratic? I mean, you think about the way you interact with those people that you depend on in your business, day in and day out. Other types of leadership influence are congregations or groups, right? Do you have a shared common belief or a shared interest? Is it a club? You're all runners or you're all networking groups or whatever. Is the influence cause related? Is it something you're passionate about? And it's a cause that you can influence others to get behind. Is it a client influence, right? Are you the expert? Are you a know-it-all? Or do you more skillfully educate your clients? How do you see yourself? Are you a consultant or do you know everything? And you're just going to impart your knowledge and not listen well. How authentic are you in that relationship with your client as you influence them to do what you think is the best decision for the best outcome that they can achieve? And personally, these are the familial hierarchies, your friends, your relationships. How do others see you? What does your voice to them sound like? And a lot of times, let's talk about it in birth order, right? When we talk about personal, you might have 2 or 3 children in a family, the oldest, the youngest, the middle child is the mediator. How does your family see you? My family calls my mother the little general and I'm the little corporal because we just tend to have that director kind of personalities. So they know that we're the ones that get it done. We execute. We have the idea person over here. We have the executor over here. So, that's the kind of thing that, you want to think about in your relationships with influence, right? So lots of groups, employee congregations or groups, cause, client, personal. We're going to touch on a lot of things as we go into influence and how they can interact in different ways. So again, leaders need followers, right? So how do you get followers? Well, you don't go out looking for followers. You decide who you are, and the follower decides if they want to follow along your path. So, they decide who they want to be influenced by. And leadership is a gift that the follower gives to the leader. So that's important, and you're dealing with both clients and customers. You're dealing with that purchase and sale relationship. You're competing against other people in the same industry to win that client. How authentic are you? And do you have their best interests in mind as you interact with them? That comes through loud and clear, your authenticity and your belief that you truly are the best choice. So now you've got to prove that, right? So let's talk a little bit about powers that influence. And all of us have interacted with those that have given examples by hard versus soft power. We're going to discuss these two. We've all been around long enough to know we've had good bosses and poor bosses and good relationships and poor relationships. So let's talk about some of the things that might be some examples of hard versus soft power and powers that influence. So there are different types of power, right? The first one, if you describe it as hard power, what we mean by that is someone who is a titled leader, right? It's like a boss to an employee, a parent to a child. They have the power. They're in the hierarchy of power in a particular position. That power touches your mind. It's a do it or suffer the consequences kind of power, right? They have privilege of being in a position of power. Necessary sometimes to have hard power, right? Sometimes, they might not exhibit hard power all the time, but, they're easygoing, but man, when they shout, you stop and you pay attention. So that's the necessary sometimes. And I always tell my team, sometimes the bear needs to roar or it becomes a rug, because I normally don't roar, but every now and then I need to roar. The threat of use of force, that's a little scary. If you don't do this, you will be affected. And, this may change actions, but not the thoughts or belief, right? Because there's a consequence. Is this truly a successful leader? Do you respect the person with hard power as a person, or do you just maybe respect the position that they hold? So you can respect the position, but you might not respect the person, right? So think about that, right? You know how you would act with that individual. You know how you would relate to that individual. Are they warm? Do you gravitate toward them with the use of hard power, or do you just tolerate that relationship because of the hard power that they exhibit? And I'm sure there are people in your lives that you've had experience with this type of power and influence and how it made you feel, okay? So let's talk a little bit about soft power, okay? So how does soft power influence? Well, this is your heart power, right? It comes from within. You have this emotional connection to a situation or a person. You buy into their mission or their dream, and they buy into yours. People want to work with people and follow those that they know, like, and respect. Do they believe in your vision as you present it? Happier followers, you're like-minded. You share the same commonality. These soft power influences last longer because there's more of an emotional connection and buy-in. Soft power influences have team players. They go together. They go as groups. They trust one another. They just know that they have each other's back, and they willingly go along. They see the vision, they understand the vision, and they willingly follow you, right? So people make decisions emotionally with their hearts, and then they use logic to justify it, right? So believe me, the decision is made first, and the logic to convince others why they made that decision follows after the decision's already been made. Any questions on that? Anybody have any comments? You know, there might have been a very glaring relationship or a situation you might have had in your professional career that you want to share with the group? The distinction between heart and self-power. Anyone?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have probably felt that for sure. So, and even those of us that are parents, you know, understand that process.
Definitely, definitely on that end of it.
Yeah.
All right. So better leaders equal better influencers. Okay. And what we really want to talk about is how to become a better influencer, right? How do we influence those that we come around? And influence is not a bad word, right? We're not asking them to follow us blindly. What we are trying to do is just influence them and see if we can create better relationships as a result of that influence. So become the person that deserves to be followed, right? Better influencers earn it. They don't just get it, they earn it. So, you know, when you become the person that deserves to be followed, you receive respect because you're the one that has given respect. Be perceived as being ahead of the follower, right? They have the key to knowledge or understanding, right? As a branch manager, it's my job to be ahead of my team. It's my job to find out things that can help them in their business or tools that they can use to grow. You know, because if they're so busy out there getting business, they might not be paying attention to things that they need to help enhance their business. So I need to be a step ahead. Great skills, right? Whether it's communication skills, whether it's knowledge skills, be skilled, be an expert in your field, study, learn, you know, get your statistics, understand your presentation. You're competing. What do you want that follower to know about you or that client or that customer that sets you apart? Have strong character, integrity, and attitude. Those things go together, right? High integrity, character go together. Do you inspire trust? Are you reliable? You know, do you do what you say you're going to do? What's your follow-up look like? Having a great attitude, to me, is better than having the best pedigree. Having the attitude and the willingness to help one another, the willingness to learn, the willingness to take criticism constructively, right? We don't call it criticism. We say, I see an opportunity here, you know, and being willing to listen to others that might be able to assist you in something. Are you open to suggestion or change? And do you allow those people to have a voice? That's the difference between heart and self-power, right? In heart power, you're just telling them like it is. They need to go along and keep their mouth shut, pretty much, in the way you're saying it. It might not be so collaborative. In the soft power situations, the attitude, the integrity, the character is all wrapped into the performance, right? And the influence you're providing the other member of the team or the client, the listing client, the selling client, the new borrower, the new purchaser, etc. Because let's face it, we're not in this transactionally. We are in this for the long haul. We want more than one transaction. We want to branch out, and we want those customers to be advocates for us always, for any next transaction or lead that they can provide. So the better influencer should have the ability to, 1, communicate, 2, negotiate, 3, network, self-manage, build relationships, and construct knowledge. And when I look at this slide, I really think that if you put the word effectively at the end of each of these listed here, that's what we're looking to do. The better influencer should do all of these things effectively and do it with confidence. Okay, so we need to work on all of these things in the relationships that we develop or with new clients, leads, etc. So what kind of relationships do we have presently? Are you able to communicate effectively in those relationships? Are you able to negotiate on behalf of your buyer or seller effectively? Do you network? Do you create more opportunities to build your client base, your customer base? What are the groups that you're involved in? You know, do you ask for referrals? How often? And I always laugh on my team, especially with networking and asking for referrals, because a lot of people ask for referrals when the transaction is done. You should be asking for referrals during the transaction. That's when you have their attention, during the transaction. After the transaction, there's a lot of things that they're involved in, and it might not always be you, but you are definitely involved during the transaction. So those are great times to ask for referrals. Self-management, right? You have to self-manage your time. You have to have self-control during a conversation and be patient and understand the nuances of listening versus talking. Communicate effectively is interesting to me only because I grew up in New Jersey. I've lived in Virginia now longer than I ever lived in New Jersey. And can you hear me still, Dave? Dave?
Yeah, you bet. I can still hear you. Yeah, I think everybody's good.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
just had
okay.
a sign come up.
Yeah.
All right. So I grew up in New Jersey, and when I moved to Virginia and started working in Virginia, I went to school in Virginia, and I had people come up to me and say, "We can't understand you. You're talking too quickly." And I grew up right outside of New York City, and if you know anything about that area, you know that we truncate a lot of words. If anyone in my family calls me Kelly versus Kel, that would be unusual because it's just faster to say Kel than Kelly, and it's one syllable. So that was an eye-opener for me down here in working with people that when I spoke and I spoke too quickly, they perceived me as not listening. And it wasn't that I wasn't listening, that was just the cadence of my speech. And really had to work very seriously to slow the speech down, talk a little, less quickly, be sure I don't truncate any of my words, and flatten the accent, flatten that New Jersey / New York kind of accent, just because it may not have been, I might not have been a very good communicator when speaking with them. And the perception of speaking quickly in that you're not listening, while might be unfounded, doesn't matter if it's unfounded. If they perceive that I'm not listening because of the speed of my speech or the truncation of words, that's a problem, that I had to react to. So when you look at this, I think I just want you to be honest in each of these things. Are you doing these things effectively? Do you have enough knowledge? If you have enough knowledge, that builds your confidence. If it builds your confidence, it allows you to communicate effectively. If it allows you to communicate effectively, you can negotiate effectively. Once you negotiate effectively, you can network with anyone. So it all leads to the same thing. Any questions on that?
No, so far we're good. Yep.
Okay. So again, when we talk about influence and how you want to be a better influencer, the first one of the steps you should look at is what does your present cover and this of course comes across very superficially, right? They, they look at your cover. The first thing is, what do you look like? Are you neat, clean, groomed? What is your outward appearance? And I know people agonize over their photos and what they should wear and if it should be outside and should I wear sleeves or short sleeves, button down. What is that? What do I want to present, right? Think about that. And there might be different faces you want to present, right? One might be casual for a particular group. One might be formal for another group. There's a lot of different faces that you have, but what should always be presented is that it's authentic. It's you. It's not what you think they want to see. It's who you are, right? And we know this in all of the social media classes that we're taking and all of the marketing classes that we're taking. People can see through something that's not authentic. Do you speak effectively? I think I just kind of addressed this with a little bit of my own story. But I want to state one more thing here about effective speech is, one, yes, clearly. Two, yes, is it easy to understand? But what also are your word choices? I think word choices are very powerful in communicating. You don't want to speak above someone. You don't want to insult someone by speaking too, rudimentary. But what are your word choices, that there's a commonality between the two of you? Understand who your audience is and try to mirror that speech or choice of words to communicate your ideas effectively. And then attitude. Are you the kind of person that people gravitate to when you walk in the room? Do you think you improve their mood? Are you cheerful? Are you helpful? If you're not, you got to take a look at that. People want to be around people that make them feel good, or that they're excited to see, or that they can learn from, or that there's always something interesting about them. Are you welcoming? And I'm going to tell another little short story here. When I was early in my career, and we all take sales classes and we all, try to do things the way we're being taught to do them. And I would listen to someone who was a very good salesperson in the other room. She was a top performer on our team. She was in the mortgage business, and I would listen to her on the phone. Now, when you're on the phone, all people can hear is how pleasant you are, your word choices. Are you smiling? Are you receptive? Are you engaged, right? So you've got to obviously have voice inflection and so forth. And I would listen to her on the phone, and I would see her out in places where she would meet total strangers and immediately open dialogue and be welcoming. And I grew up in New Jersey, and we didn't trust anybody. Okay, we were not like walking in places and starting up conversations with complete strangers. We were afraid. It was just a different environment when I grew up. So it wasn't natural for me to be that warm and welcoming on the phone as it was to her. And I was so envious. But what I learned from that was there were some things I could do. There were some things I could add to my phone conversation or face-to-face conversation. There were just word choices I could make. There was scripting that felt okay to me, that was authentic to me. I couldn't be her, and I had to understand I couldn't be her, but I could be better and more welcoming in my own way, and that evolved over time. So, if there's someone in your office or in your sphere that you kind of just look up to, and on that one thing, and it could come from a lot of different places, right? That why do they improve your attitude? Why do they improve your mood? You want to be that type of person for others. You want to attract people to you, and that builds your business. So again, I wanted to kind of wrap some things up here in ways to influence others that we touched on from the previous slides, and talk a little bit about these as we go through. Definitely, number one, you want to find a common bond, right? There's always something that you want to try to have an affinity with others, have something in common. That always bodes well in creating that positive influence with whomever is in your life. You definitely want to ask questions. You want to make it about them. You want to see if you can find a common bond. You want to see what works together for you as a team. And by asking questions, you might also find that you're not a good fit. And that's okay. You know, you don't want to waste your time any more than they want to waste theirs. But you have to ask that question. And then build deeper roots, right? Sometimes, you know, when I see this build deeper roots, sometimes people are talking to others and it's not going well and you feel like you're in a dark place, right, with this conversation or with this client or whatever. You know, maybe it's not a dark place. Maybe you're just planted. Maybe it's a time to grow and switch that conversation around and create those roots. So it doesn't have to be a dark place. It could be that you just got planted and it's time to grow in a different direction. You know, be passionate. Passionate is contagious. People see that first. You know, I am passionate about any borrower I speak with. I want them to know that I am working to give them the best advantage they have because I know they're going to compete on the best house. I know that the marketplace is tough. I know that there's competition. I want them to know that working with their realtor, we are going to do the very best job we can for them so that they are in the strongest negotiation place when it comes up. That passion is contagious. When you're fighting for your customer or your client, they see that. They know how hard you're going to work. You don't have to tell them, oh, I'll work hard for you. They see it. They know you're going to do it. And that comes from the belief in what you are doing. You know, that comes out loud and clear. And again, your character integrity, right, should be unquestionable, coupled with skills that we've discussed, a common bond and passion leads to respect and trust, right? We want that respect. We want them to trust us. And then you receive the gift of influence by others. They choose you. They choose to follow you. They choose to work with you. Where you go, they go, because they believe that that's the best. They can be better with you than without you. That's where we're going. So people want to follow successful people. If you're already successful, then you are already there, right? But I think most of us might say, oh, we're successful, but we all know we can be more successful. You know, we always want to start somewhere and try to take that success to the furthest level that we can take it. You know, if you're not where you want to be authentic and honest with yourself. Critique yourself after meeting with a new buyer or seller. Go out to your car with a notebook and say, what could I have done better? What went well? Maybe if you're going with someone else, you critique each other. So someone is, you know, observing the presentation and come back to the car. I do this with some of my team members when we go on joint sales calls. I'll come out and I'll say, okay, what did you think went well? What could you have improved upon? Did you hear this? What could have been missed, you know, that you could have, you know, elaborated on? Be honest and be willing to take that critique because you will get better, you know, and sometimes you just miss something. Sometimes it's a miscued. And then work on the adjustments that may be needed so that you could be a better influencer the next time or change the conversation or come back. And there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what? After I left the other day, I realized that I might not have answered that question, you know, fully. I thought about it a little bit more and wanted to get back to you on that. Whatever it may be authentic and you'll go further. As a realtor, you're going to set goals and you're going to exceed them, right? Have those goals. Be sure you want to exceed them. I think everybody is a coach in some way. And be the best at leading others to reach their goals. You might be part of a team. If you're not part of a team, you at least have support people in your offices that work for you and with you on your transactions. Be a coach. Be a partner. You know what I mean? Lift them up. Because trust me, in the personal side of it, they might be working with all of the realtors in a particular office, but when you're the one that's bringing the attitude and the inspiration to them daily, when they have someone personal, you're going to be the one they refer. When they have someone that they wants to buy something or sell something or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're going to be the one they refer because you view them with respect and as a partner. And again, your success is going to inspire others to be successful. Everybody gets lifted. Everybody gets lifted. And that was really all I had. I mean, I know this was kind of like a very big topic to try to break down. I would love to hear feedback from anybody on the call, if they've had any examples.
Yeah, no, this is a really, really good question. I appreciate this, Bruce. Bruce asks, does becoming an influencer something that happens consciously, or does it happen as a result of displaying the habits you explain in your presentation?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I think, you know, there are some people that are naturally good at being warm and welcoming. That could just be in their DNA. It wasn't in mine. It wasn't in mine. It was a conscientious effort to relax and not take myself so seriously and be more authentic in what you present. You know, I think you have to start with yourself. I definitely think confidence in your subject matter leads to influence in some degree, right? So, you know, I could tell you when I started in the business, 1986, I had a manager that handed me a rate sheet and a book of guidelines and said, go get them. That was my training.
Wow.
Okay. So, you know, to tell me to be really smart on my products and understand what to do didn't teach me how to relate to people who are going to trust me with their paychecks, right? What realtor is going to give me a loan if I'm just spewing guidelines and not really, you know, enhancing the perception of them to the client, right? What I want to do is be sure and validate the client's selection of the realtor as the best possible choice to lead them down their path. And then we work as a team, you know, to make that transaction so that anytime that person has a referral, it's going to the two of us, not just the one of us. You know, so I think it develops. But you have to be honest with yourself and where you need help.
You know, and adding into that too, Kelly, the thing that I've seen is that even people that might have some leadership potential or some leadership qualities about them that seem somewhat natural, they never ever progress as a leader if they don't practice. If they don't practice these habits and do these things that you've been talking about in here. So I think it really is probably some of both, Bruce, but I think honestly it's a lot of it is like what Kelly was saying is recognizing where you are now as a leader and being able to continue to find ways to improve on that. And I agree. I mean, we are all leaders. And I tell you, the thing that I've seen in working with real estate agents the past 6 years is that each one really is in a role of leadership, whether they've accepted it or not. They absolutely are. And even if they are a solo person and that's it, and they have their own office and they're their own broker, you know, they have a team of, you know, home inspectors and contractors and pest control people and lenders and, you know, title folks that, you know, it's like this whole army of people that they need to be in a position, they need to accept that position of leadership. So no, this was really, really good. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
You know, they're people follow people they know, like, and trust. That is a basic rule. Know, like, and trust. They got to know you, they have to like you, and then they trust you.
Absolutely.
They don't trust you first. Any other questions? Comments? Would love a story if anybody's got one.
No, this is great. Bruce asked, great information. Is there a way to be able to study this material? Any recommendation on books to discuss in further detail? Do you have any, Kelly? I've got an author who's written a ton of books on leadership, but I wanted to see if you have any suggestions first, because you know where this information came from. So
I'd have to look. I mean, this I took. Cindy actually was the one who provided a lot of the information on this. What we can do is reach out to Cindy because she provided some of the templates to this. What I tried to do is just kind of weed it down and make it more manageable as it relates to real estate, to the real estate community. There's a lot of information on soft and hard power, but let me see if she might have some titles to send your way. I was working really off of some information that she provided that didn't really lend to a particular one specific book. It came from a lot of different places and I think got integrated into the PowerPoint.
yeah, and
But
one that I put up there, Kelly, and this is somebody that I've read a number of his books, and most of the books that he writes are literally about leadership. His name's John Maxwell. So
John. Yeah, I have a ton of John Maxwell books.
Yeah.
One of them was the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. That's a really good one. But yeah, we have a lot of, there's another one that I really like. If you've ever read John Gordon,
Yes.
this is a very, very fast read. If you've heard of it, it's called Soup, S-O-U-P. And it's a recipe to nourish your team and culture. And just in general, what the book is about is what do you bring to the table that's special? And it's a very short read, but it's really dynamic to me in respect to we all have unique skills and we're not going to fit with everybody. There's a reason certain people followed me from place to place that I went to work. And immediately if I left, they came with me. There's a reason for that. Right? I can identify those reasons, but those reasons might have occurred over a number of years. It's the same with any realtor or anybody who works on commission and bills a referral base. There's a reason they call you first. You need to know what that reason is. And don't hesitate to ask the customer, why did you call me again? What is it about me that made you call me again? Because I always so appreciate it. And they're like, you have always been so reliable, or you have always been this, or you have always been that, and I know you're going to tell me the truth. Like, that's the best one, as I know you're just going to tell me the truth. Because it's funny, I'll always tell a story. I had a customer call me once, and it was a very tiny transaction. And I want to say it was like a $60,000 condo, whatever, and he was going on, and I said, you don't need me. What I think you should do is X, Y, and Z. I said, but I don't think you need to do this. I would just do this, this, and this. And he said, I can't believe you just said that. No one has told me that you don't need me. He goes, I know you make nothing by telling me that, but I appreciate it. Well, 2 months later, he called me back with a very large transaction to handle in it. You know what I mean? And but that's the point. It's like, how do you, I want to be treated that way. So that's why how I want to treat others. And so what are people saying about you? And there's a reason they're calling you. Know what that reason is. Make that reason better and be sure others know that reason.
Yeah. And like you said, don't be afraid to ask. I mean, that's the best way to find out. It may be that that there's something that you're doing that people appreciate that you don't even recognize about yourself. So sometimes, so that's, absolutely. Wow, this was really good. I really appreciate it, Kelly. So hopefully you guys got a lot out of this.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Couple things I wanted to mention real quickly. I just put up a link to citybishopworldwide.com business building. The reason I want to take you there, folks, is there's an event coming up on November 19th. If you appreciate this kind of training and you recognize the value that this kind of training can have to helping you build your real estate business, please consider this seminar that we have going on November 19th. This is not a webinar. This is a face-to-face. We're meeting at Kelly's office, actually, at
upstairs. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So she has an awesome.
And I will be there.
It's called the Penthouse, so it's really cool.
Yes.
But anyway, so we have to go to the Penthouse. But anyway, it's an awesome environment, and more than that, that's going to be some great skill-based training, and it really at a very opportune time, folks. We're getting close to the end of 2019, looking forward to 2020. And this is a good time to kind of take a look and say, okay, what are the things that are missing in my business? What are the things that I can be improving? And believe me, we've done a couple of these events and people have gotten a lot out of them just in the process of developing some of their sales skills, developing their goal setting, some of those types of things. We're actually going to have a pretty lively session on social media and how to use that effectively in leading your groups.
Right.
You know, so
and I would love to meet you face to face. So I'll be there, and if you've attended this and you come, please seek me out, because I would love to meet you face to face.
You know what? I just got this from Bruce, and Bruce, I apologize. You know what? Let me get over there real quickly and get you the right link. There it is. Got it. Let me get the right one in this way. Yeah, thank you for checking that out. And this way I will make sure you've got the right one. Here we go. Try that. That should work better. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you sharing that. So that there was an error in that.
And to be true to my word, any feedback, you've got my email up on screen here. If you have any feedback on today's session, I would so greatly appreciate it. If it could be improved in any way, I am open to critique. We want to make it better. We want to make it valuable to you. So please feel free to email me. I would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this was a great session. I appreciate you guys, your guys' feedback on all this. And we will look forward to hopefully seeing you on the 19th. So you'll get a chance to meet Kelly in person if you haven't, and myself and Cindy Bishop, and we're coming ready to give you some great skill-based training. So anyway, thank you guys for attending today.
Have a great day.
Yep. All right.
Thank you. Bye now.